Okay, so today I want to discuss something that I think is very important, and I think most people have completely missed it because everyone is focused on the war. Everyone is asking, is Iran winning? Is America losing? When does the ground invasion happen? These are all very good questions, but today I want to zoom out. I want to step back from the battlefield and look at the bigger picture because I believe that the most important thing happening right now is not what's happening in Iran. The most important thing happening right now is what is happening to China and to Pakistan and to the entire global order that America built after World War II, okay? And here is my central argument for today. Donald Trump went to war to weaken China, and in doing so, he is making China the most powerful and respected country in the world. He is doing exactly the opposite of what he intended. And this is a pattern we have seen throughout history. Great empires, in their arrogance, take actions that accelerate their own decline. And today I want to show you exactly how this is happening, step by step, using game theory and structural history. Okay, so let's begin. First, I want to give you some background, because to understand what China is doing right now, you need to understand what China's biggest problem has been for the last 20 years. China's biggest problem is what strategists call the Malacca dilemma. Okay, what is that? So approximately 80% of China's oil imports pass through a very narrow strait called the Strait of Malacca between Malaysia and Indonesia. This strait is essentially controlled by the US Navy. The US has bases in Singapore, in Japan, in South Korea, in Guam. They completely surround this shipping lane. So if America wanted to, it could cut off China's oil supply almost overnight just by blockading the Strait of Malacca. This is China's single greatest strategic vulnerability, and Chinese military planners have been losing sleep over this for decades. Now, think about what has just happened because of this war. Iran is controlling the Strait of Hormuz. 20% of global oil passes through there, and China has been given essentially a free pass. Iranian ships let Chinese ships through. Iranian strategy has been very deliberate about this. They control who can pass and who cannot, and China can pass. Why? Because China is Iran's biggest oil buyer. China kept buying Iranian oil even during the sanctions years. China never abandoned Iran. So now Iran rewards China. What does this mean? It means that while America is trying to choke off Iran, China is actually building a completely new energy supply chain that does not depend on the Strait of Malacca. China is solving its 20-year strategic vulnerability, and America is helping it do that by creating a situation where Iran controls the Hormuz and gives China priority access. This is extraordinary. This is a strategic gift that America is delivering to China completely by accident. Okay, let me now bring in something I have discussed before, the structure of the world, because I want you to understand why this matters so much. Remember, at the core of the current world system is the American empire. The empire provides the muscle. The empire says this is how the rules work. Around the empire, you have the finance, Wall Street, City of London, the big asset managers. They are the game masters. And then you have the global economy, which runs on the US dollar, the petrodollar system. And then you have the multilateral organizations, the UN, the WTO, which give this system a veneer of legitimacy. Now, this entire system depends on one thing: American credibility, American power. The belief by all the other players, the finance people, the Gulf states, the European nations, that America is in charge, America is strong, and America's rules must be followed. What happens when that credibility is destroyed? What happens when the world watches America spend $13 billion on an aircraft carrier that runs away from Iranian drones? What happens when the world watches America's most expensive fighter jet get shot down? What happens when America announces a ceasefire that Iran says never happened? The answer is the world starts looking for a replacement. And right now, the world is looking at China. Okay, now I want to talk about Pakistan, because this is what I called the secret role. And I think Pakistan's role in this war is one of the most fascinating geopolitical stories of our time. And most people are not paying attention to it. Let me ask you a question. Think about this carefully. Who brokered the ceasefire in this war? Not America, not Europe. Not Saudi Arabia, Pakistan. A country that most Western commentators wrote off as a failed state. A country that has been dealing with economic crisis, political instability, and its own border conflicts. Pakistan stepped up and did something that no one else could do. It got America and Iran, two countries who hate each other, who had been bombing each other, to sit down and talk. How? Why Pakistan? Why not France? Why not Germany? Why not the United Nations? This is where it gets very interesting, and I want to use game theory to explain it. Pakistan is in a unique position. It has a mutual defense agreement with Saudi Arabia, one of America's closest allies in the region. At the same time, Pakistan shares nearly 1,000 kilometers of border with Iran. Pakistan cannot afford to be Iran's enemy. Iran is its neighbor. If Iran collapses into chaos, Pakistan's border region becomes a disaster zone. So Pakistan has to maintain relationships with both sides simultaneously. And this gives Pakistan something very rare in geopolitics: credibility with both enemies at the same time. Think about it like a good referee in a street fight. The referee cannot be the best friend of one of the fighters. If he is, the other fighter will not listen to him. The referee must be someone both fighters can trust. Pakistan was that referee. Iran trusted Pakistan because Pakistan never joined the war against Iran. America trusted Pakistan because Pakistan has been a historical ally. It was part of the Cold War alliance, and crucially, Pakistan has nuclear weapons. America cannot simply ignore a nuclear-armed country of 250 million people that sits right next to Afghanistan, Iran, and China. Now here is what makes this even more interesting. Pakistan did not just transmit messages. It shaped those messages. It decided what to say, when to say it, and how to frame the proposals. Pakistan formally offered to host talks on March 23rd. It arranged for the American 15-point proposal to be transmitted to Iran through Islamabad. It coordinated with China on the 5-point peace initiative. It worked with Turkey, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia simultaneously. And here's the historical parallel that I think is most important. In 1971, Pakistan did exactly the same thing. Henry Kissinger, the great American strategist, needed to secretly travel to China for the first time, to open the door between America and China after 22 years of frozen relations. And how did he do it? He flew from Islamabad. Pakistan was the bridge. Pakistan's President Yahya Khan arranged the secret visit. Without Pakistan, there is no Nixon going to China. Without that, the Cold War looks completely different. And now in 2026, Pakistan is doing it again. It is being the bridge between two powers that cannot talk to each other directly. First, it was America and China in 1971. Now it is America and Iran in 2026. Pakistan has what I call the international mediation gene. It knows how to sit between giants and be useful to everyone. But here is the deeper question. Why is Pakistan doing this now? What does Pakistan get out of it? And this is where game theory becomes very important. Let me explain Pakistan's strategic calculation. Pakistan has 5 million workers in the Gulf states. These workers send money home. This is one of the most important sources of foreign currency for the Pakistani economy. If this war keeps going, Gulf states become unstable. Pakistani workers lose their jobs. Pakistan loses billions of dollars in remittances. This is an economic catastrophe for Pakistan. Pakistan is also extremely dependent on Middle Eastern oil. It has almost no oil reserves of its own. If the Strait of Hormuz stays closed, Pakistan's economy goes into crisis. Energy prices spike. Industry shuts down. Ordinary Pakistani people suffer. And Pakistan shares a 1,000-kilometer border with Iran. If America invades Iran and Iran descends into chaos, that chaos spills across the border into Pakistan's Balochistan region, which is already unstable. So Pakistan has 3 separate, powerful reasons to end this war as quickly as possible. This is not charity. This is pure self-interest. And that is exactly what makes Pakistan a credible mediator. Every player in this game, America, Iran, China, Saudi Arabia, knows that Pakistan is not doing this as a favor to any of them. Pakistan is doing this because it has to. And that means Pakistan will not be a puppet of any side. It will be honest. And honesty is exactly what a mediator needs, okay? Now let me bring China back into the picture, because China's role here is even more fascinating than Pakistan's. And this is where the title of today's lecture becomes very clear. Trump is making China great again. Here is what China has done in this war. Officially, China is neutral. China has not fired a single shot. China has not sent a single soldier. China has not formally taken sides. And yet, China has emerged from this war stronger than it entered it. How is this possible? Let me show you. First, China has been providing Iran with the tools to fight. Not weapons directly, at least not openly, but dual-use technology, radar systems, navigation technology, geospatial intelligence tools, Chinese satellite reconnaissance, Chinese companies with links to the military have been selling Iran tools that make its drones and missiles more effective. So China is helping Iran fight this war, while officially being neutral. This is extremely clever. China gets the benefit of helping Iran weaken America without any of the political cost of being seen as a belligerent. Second, China has been buying Iranian oil the entire time. Iran's biggest worry when this war started was economic survival. Sanctions had already cut Iran off from the Western financial system, but China kept buying. China kept the Iranian economy alive, and now, with the Strait of Hormuz being controlled by Iran and with America's sanctions effectively collapsing because Iran is exporting freely, China is buying even more Iranian oil at discounted prices. Iran needs cash. China needs oil. It is a perfect transaction, and it builds even deeper economic ties between the two countries that will last far beyond this war. Third, and this is the most important one, China has stepped into the global leadership vacuum that America created. Let me explain this. The world expected America to be the adult in the room. The world expected America to manage this crisis with strategy, with diplomacy, with a clear plan. Instead, what did the world get? Trump announcing a ceasefire that Iran said never happened. Trump threatening to bomb Iranian energy infrastructure, then delaying, then threatening again. The 48-hour ultimatum that became a 5-day ultimatum that became a 10-day extension. America's Secretary of War saying we negotiate with bombs. America's president posting on social media at 3 a.m. No strategy, no plan, just improvisation and lies. Into this vacuum stepped China. China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi made 26 phone calls to foreign ministers across the region. 26 calls. He spoke to Russia, Saudi Arabia, Germany, Iran, Bahrain. He sent special envoys to multiple countries. He coordinated with Pakistan on a 5-point peace proposal. He worked with the African Union. He approached the European Union. He built a coalition around a simple, clear message. Stop the war, open the strait, protect civilians, let the UN play a role. And you know what? The world listened. Saudi Arabia supported the China-Pakistan plan, Egypt supported it, Turkey supported it, the African Union supported it, Iran came to the table. And ultimately, even though Trump would never admit this publicly, China played a key role in convincing Iran to accept the 2-week ceasefire. Think about what this means. China, without firing a single shot, without spending a single dollar on weapons, positioned itself as the country that ended the most dangerous war of 2026, while America was seen as the country that started it. This is an extraordinary reversal. This is a geopolitical revolution, and Trump caused it by accident. Okay, now I want to use a thought experiment to make this very clear, because I think this pattern of an empire accidentally strengthening its rival is one of the most important patterns in all of history. Let me take you back to Athens, 415 BCE. Athens was the dominant power in the Greek world, confident, powerful, wealthy, and Athens decided to launch a massive military expedition to conquer Sicily, the Sicilian expedition. Now, this was supposed to be easy. Sicily was rich. Taking it would make Athens even richer and more powerful. What could go wrong? Everything went wrong. The expedition was a catastrophe. Athens lost most of its fleet. It lost most of its army. Its best generals were killed or captured. And while Athens was exhausted and weakened, who grew stronger? Sparta, Corinth, the enemies that Athens had not been paying attention to because it was too busy with Sicily. This is called imperial overreach. When a great power is so confident in its own strength that it takes on a fight it cannot win. And in doing so, it creates the conditions for its rivals to rise. America is doing this in Iran. America is the Athens of our time, confident, arrogant, certain that its military power will solve any problem. And while America is bleeding in the Persian Gulf, spending interceptor missiles it cannot replace, losing aircraft carriers that cost $13 billion, watching its political will erode at home, China is doing what Sparta did, watching quietly, building strength, building alliances, building the infrastructure of the next world order. And here is the specific way that China is building that new order right now. It is called the Belt and Road Initiative. You have heard of it, but let me explain why this war makes it so much more important. The Belt and Road is China's grand project to connect Asia, Africa, Europe, and the Middle East through a network of roads, railways, ports, and pipelines. And guess who is at the center of this network? Iran. And guess who is China's partner in building the land corridor through Central Asia? Pakistan. The China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, CPEC, is one of the most important infrastructure projects in the world. A direct land route from Chinese factories to the Arabian seaport of Gwadar in Pakistan. From there, Chinese goods can be shipped to the entire Middle East, Africa, and Europe without passing through the Strait of Malacca, without passing through any waterway controlled by the US Navy. This war is accelerating all of this. Because every country watching what America is doing to Iran is asking themselves, do I really want to depend on America for my security? Do I really want my trade routes controlled by a power that starts wars without a plan and cannot finish them? And the answer for more and more countries is no. Pakistan is deepening its relationship with China through this crisis. The 5-point plan they announced together was not just a peace proposal, it was a signal to the whole world. China and Pakistan are now jointly managing the most important geopolitical crisis on Earth. Not America, not NATO, China and Pakistan. Saudi Arabia is watching this. UAE is watching, Egypt is watching, Turkey is watching, and they are all drawing the same conclusion. The future is multipolar. And in that multipolar future, China is one of the poles, and America is a declining one. Now let me address something directly, because some of you might be thinking, okay, but China is not really that powerful. It has its own problems. Its economy has issues. It has the Taiwan question. It has domestic tensions. And yes, all of that is true. But here is what I want you to understand. Power is relative. Power is not just about how strong you are in absolute terms. Power is about how strong you are relative to your rivals at a given moment. And right now, at this moment, America's credibility has been severely damaged. America's military power has been exposed as less decisive than everyone thought. America's financial system is under stress from oil disruptions. America's political will is fragile. And China has not fired a shot. China has not lost a soldier. China has not spent a dollar on weapons in this war. China has gained access to Iranian oil. China has strengthened its relationship with Pakistan. China has positioned itself as the world's peacemaker. China has demonstrated to the entire global south, to Africa, to Asia, to Latin America, that there is an alternative to the American-led order. And that alternative is willing to listen, willing to mediate, and not interested in bombing people. This is soft power. And soft power is how empires are built in the modern world. Not with bombs, with credibility, with respect, with the perception that you are on the right side of history. And right now, China has all three of those things, and America has none of them. Okay, so let me now bring this all together. Let me give you my complete framework. What we are watching right now is one of the great historical pivots. These moments happen rarely, maybe once every 50 to 100 years. A moment when the structure of world power fundamentally changes, when one empire's decline creates the space for another power to rise. The last great pivot was after World War II. Britain was exhausted, bankrupt, its empire was collapsing. And America stepped in, not by fighting Britain, but by being the country that could do what Britain could no longer do. Provide stability, provide finance, provide military muscle, provide a vision of the world order. We are watching a similar pivot right now. America is not going to disappear overnight. Empires never collapse overnight. But America's capacity to provide global leadership, to be credible, to be trusted, to be the adult in the room, is being destroyed in real time. And China is positioned to fill that vacuum. Not because China is perfect, not because China has all the answers, but because China is willing to do what America is no longer doing. Picking up the phone, making 26 calls, coordinating proposals, supporting mediation, respecting the sovereignty of other nations, even when it disagrees with them. And Pakistan is the proof of concept. Pakistan showed the world that the China-led alternative actually works. Pakistan, a country that has its own relationship with China, its own relationship with the Muslim world, its own relationship with America, was able to use all of those relationships to do something America could not do. Bring two enemies to the table, create the conditions for a ceasefire, keep the region from descending into a catastrophe that would have affected every human being on this planet. And this happened because China supported it, gave it weight, used its leverage with Iran quietly behind the scenes. While America was posting on Truth Social, Trump wanted to make America great again. He thought this war would demonstrate American power. He thought bombing Iran would show the world that America is still the boss. Instead, every week this war continues, America looks weaker, more confused, more dangerous, and less trustworthy. And China looks stronger, more capable, more reasonable, and more like the kind of power the world wants to follow. Trump is making China great again, and he doesn't even know it. Okay? Now, as I always say, this is not prophecy. I want you to question everything I am saying. I want you to look at the evidence and think for yourself. That is what predictive history is about. We use game theory. We use structural history. We look at patterns, and we ask, if this pattern continues, what is the most likely outcome? The pattern here is clear. Imperial overreach creates the space for rivals to rise. America's war in Iran is accelerating China's rise. Pakistan's mediation is demonstrating the China-led alternative works, and the world is watching and drawing its own conclusions. History does not repeat exactly, but it rhymes, and right now it is rhyming very loudly, okay?